There we go. I think you're good, Tom.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. So I'd like to, the Greater Victoria School District wishes to recognize and acknowledge the Esquimalt and Songhees nations on whose traditional territories we live, we learn, and we do our work. So could I have a motion to approve the agenda? Okay, thank you, Jordan, Brian. Do we have any amendments to the agenda? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you, and the motion passes. So we'll go to the minutes. Does anybody have any questions about the minutes? Trustee Ryan Painter?
Oh, sorry, Tom. I was just moving approval.
Okay, great. And a seconder, please. Thank you, Nicole. So any questions about the minutes? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the minutes? And the minutes are approved. So I think we go straight to community presentations. So Andy, is Stephanie available?
Chair, sorry, I just see Trustee Duncan with her hand up. Just want to.
Oh, great. Yes, Trustee Duncan. Oh, yes. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Sorry, Chair. I just wondered if we could address business arising from the minutes briefly.
Oh, yes, absolutely. If you have something, please. Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, just one item. I just wanted to follow up. I know that under C2 of our last meeting, we had an update around the use of Fortis curriculum materials or learning resources. And I believe staff are going to go back and just clarify the extent to which middle and high school students are also interacting with those resource materials. I just wondered if there was any update.
Okay. Thank you, Superintendent.
Thank you, Trustee Duncan, for following up at this point. We don't have an update with regards to secondary. I think I don't know that we heard back from middle, but I will speak to Principal Hovis to see if he has any follow-up. And we do have there is a motion toward the end that Trustee Waters has brought up. So I can speak to that as well when it comes to that, if the board wishes.
Great, thank you very much. Any further business arising? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to our community presentations. And Andy, do you see Stephanie here? Oh, there she is. Okay, great. Great. So Stephanie will give you 5 minutes and probably ask you to sum up after 4.5 minutes. So please carry on. Thank you.
You're muted, Stephanie.
Stephanie, sorry, I think you're on mute.
Okay. Thank you for having me come and speak on behalf of the SD61 career coordinators. I am Stephanie Dawson and I'm the career coordinator at Mount Doug. We are 10-month QP employees. We are the heart and soul of our career centers. Through different roles in the school district, we bring years of expertise. Meet Shannon from Oak Bay, myself from Mount Doug, Allison from Spectrum, Lynn from Reynolds, Sam from Vic High, Cindy from Lambrick, and Tara from Esquimalt. Students need 8 credits in career development in order to graduate. Students, educated citizens need to thrive in a rapidly changing world. Schools must do everything possible to prepare students for their future. Employment and post-secondary. How do we do this? By supporting counselors with academic career counseling and post-secondary research for all grades by answering student and parent questions, whether they're face-to-face or email, Zoom, and phone calls. Community networking is a huge part of our job. In order to graduate, students need 30 hours of work or volunteer experience. We connect students with individuals in the fields of IT, business, health, trades, and restaurants. We do this by booking a variety of speakers, for example, software developers, and having our career classes participate in mock interviews with community members. We connect with post-secondary institutions on a daily basis. We offer one-on-one student troubleshooting support with applications. We co-host day and evening Canadian University presentations through Zoom or face-to-face. Student registrations for courses and programs are very time-consuming. We conduct several meetings to walk students and families through the entire process from start to finish. We liaise with Lindsay Johnson, our VP of Careers, Camosun and UVic. We work with counselors on student timetables and arrange work experience. We created and designed our Career Center websites, updating them on a daily basis with information from the community, teachers, and admin. We synthesize this information and generate parent newsletters. Well, we answer probably hundreds of emails and phone calls each week from parents and students and the community. We distribute information through physical and digital posters, social media, daily announcements. We are the liaison between community and every department in the school. We organize, supervise, and host events like the post-secondary fair, like the Canadian Universities event, the Indigenous Career Fair, and the SD61 Career Fair. Here are some of our community members that support our program and our students. We are a revenue generating program. We generate revenue through course-based and ITA funding. The ITA funding is funneled back into schools to support and inspire the trades pathway. We make meaningful connections with students in the hope of discovering their gifts and abilities, as well as developing essential life skills. We collaborate with inclusive ed teams to create personalized programs for students with diverse needs. We collaborate with Indigenous teams, such as the What's in Your Wallet initiative, supporting students in obtaining ID and status cards. At Vic High, the career coordinator received a $1,000 grant from iSpark to create a career exploration program specifically targeting Indigenous youth. We take our students' well-being seriously. We collaborate with counselors and work with a variety of students with mental health issues such as anxiety, providing them with the tools, strategies, and community connections for their confidence to grow. I don't have the time tonight to tell you all of the amazing stories and accomplishments our students have done. I wish I could. I can tell you that students from last year's aviation program are currently completing their private pilot's license at Victoria Flying Club with the aim of becoming commercial pilots. We have had incredible responses to our petition from
I need you to wrap up.
Yep. From the community not to cut our positions. Please take the time to scan the QR code and read the responses to this petition. And we have about 700 signatures on that petition.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your presentation tonight. I know this is a difficult time.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to us.
Great. Andy, we've got Aisha next.
Thank you, Chair.
Hello.
Hi.
Oh, great.
Good evening.
Hi, Aisha. Thank you for coming tonight. You've got 5 minutes to make your presentation. And after 4.5 minutes, I'll ask you to wrap up if you're able to.
Okay.
Thank you. So you can start anytime. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Aisha Shamu Boked. I am a grade 12 student. I want to state that the decision by the board of SD61 limit the career coordinator's position in all Victoria high school will have determined impact on all students. Without this position being in school, I would not be where I am today. In my country of Sudan, as a girl, you are considered worthless, even if you dreamed about a potential career path that you wanted to follow. It doesn't matter. Ever since I came to Canada as a refugee, the career coordinator has helped me look all different kind of career pathways, and I got to choose what kind of career I wanted. They introduced me to new programs that was being offered in conjunction with Camosin, and as we explored further, I knew this was my career path. I was referred to a square spot in the early learning care and program with the start, which started in February. It's virtual that all students have the opportunity to find their pathway, and with the help and guidance they can. Without career coordinators' help, I would not be able to accept the potential in my program. As my immigration document was incorrect, my coordinator spent 5 hours talking with the immigrant, correcting my documents, completing all necessary paperwork, photocopying legal documents, and completing every necessary for immigrants to review and issue my correct documents. I beg the board to not cut this potential, because without opportunity of finding my pathway, I would not have end up back in Sudan after high school, prostituting to marrying just men were choosing for me. Now that I started the program, I wouldn't have to go back to Sudan this summer, and my mom get to see what potential opportunity future will be when I completed this program, because I have been given this opportunity. She can see different pathway for my sister who is in grade 11. I'm proud and honored to be the first female college student in my family, and this would be not been possible if it wasn't for the incredible connection I have with the career coordinator at my high school. Thank you for giving me the time to address my concerns to the board.
Aisha, thank you for your very compelling argument, and very brave of you to come on and speak to us. Thank you so much. We'll move on to Nicola.
Hi, Tom.
Oh, great. Oh, there she is. Okay, great. Thanks so much. You start anytime, Nicola.
Perfect. Thank you. Oh, sorry. Apologies. I'm going to share my screen here. Can everyone see that okay?
Thank you.
So sorry for taking a few more seconds than I thought it would. Here we go. Hello, and thank you so much for your time. My name is Nicola Priestley, and I'm here today not only as a South Island Partnership Director, but as a member of the Greater Victoria School District. As a past district career coordinator and as an educator, I'm here today on behalf of students, staff, and our amazing Career Center coordinators. I'd like to start with a snapshot of dual credit success for 61 students. Over the course of the 2021 school year, we had 337 SD61 students participate in dual credit. 93% of those students successfully completed, and 36% of those students achieved a mark of 90% or higher. Across our region, SD61 students are leading the pack. Due to the one-on-one time and support that our Career Center coordinators provide, they are a key component of our students' success and why they are leading the region. Now, some of you might think 337 students is a small group in our large district. I'd like to note that these stats don't include thousands of students that our Career Center coordinators work with to support them through work experience, apprenticeship, district programs, dual credited other post-secondaries, and a variety of different events. When you look at some of the marketing material for our district programs and events, you might see a common phrase. For more information, reach out to your school Career Center coordinator. Our career coordinators are our students' consistent contact of support and information. The time and support they provide our students allows them to be their best. And for many of these programs, we know that they're unique and personalized for each of our students, taking numerous hours over many months of support, and allows our career coordinators not only connecting with our students, but their families, our in-school support teams, local post-secondary reps, and members from industry and community. The students that walk through our Career Center doors have a variety of different needs. Some have IEPs, learning challenges, personal financial challenges, Indigenous students, ELL, refugees, and students that are disengaged from education benefit from these supports immensely. I'd like to highlight a victory story told by one of our Career Center coordinators. Looking back at grade 9, John was disrupted by being funny, the class clown, amiable but not engaged with school at all. He floated. At some point during grade 10, John changed. He became somber, quiet. He approached us in the Career Center after hearing about the task program. He was accepted into the program and found enjoyment as well as fulfillment and engagement. John would give me this feedback when he returned to our building for visits. It was during one of these visits that he told me about his daughter. She was a few months old and his access to her was limited. His plan was to complete tasks and transition into the welding program at Camosun. He was motivated to get a job in welding and be a father to his little girl. We supported him through the process and got him into the program, a game changer. Fast forward to a few years later, I'm walking downtown when I hear my name. I turn around and there is John with his beautiful baby girl in her stroller. He was smiling and so proud. He is currently in the Camosun welding program and looking forward to starting his life with the mother of his daughter. There are hundreds of students like John benefiting from the direct support of our Career Center coordinators. Thousands of students that need our amazing Career Center coordinators. Elimination of these positions could result in a reduction of engagement and support for 75% of these students. I'd like to conclude my time with you today to summarize a student reflection from one of our students. Gabby, a Vic High student, was lost at the beginning of the year, scared to grad and had no clue of what she wanted to do. But she connected with Sam Spetter, one of our Career Center coordinators at Vic High, and was encouraged to take advantage of a dual credit opportunity, found unlimited support, and she said that she wouldn't have had the courage to apply without Sam. Her family was supporting her, but it felt amazing that she had someone from her school in her corner. And the biggest thing, Sam always had time for her. No matter how busy she was or how many questions Gabby had, Sam always made the time. Tonight, I'm very appreciative of your time, and I'm honored to be speaking on behalf of our Career Center coordinators and the amazing work that they do for our students and staff. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Nicola. We appreciate your coming tonight.
Thank you so much, Tom.
So next on our list, we have Blanche Phillips. Philip, do we see Blanche?
Here I am.
Oh, there she is. Okay,
Yes.
great. So
Thank you.
anytime you want to start, Blanche, I'll give you a heads up at about 4.5 minutes.
Okay.
Great.
My name is Blanche Phillip, and I'm a middle school admin assistant and hold one of the 12-month positions being considered for a reduction to 11 months. I've been with SD61 for over 26 years. I can appreciate the board has some tough decisions to make, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to present to you today. I'm asking that you please understand our role and responsibilities at the schools before you make a decision to reduce our hours. We are the quiet voice. The community won't be lining the streets for us. The media won't be writing about the potential cut in hours or salary for school clerical, but we are still important and summer hours are necessary. Our jobs do directly impact the students, their families, and staff. This was demonstrated in March 2020 when the global pandemic had just begun. School admin assistants were required to be in the schools as the population navigated this change. We were part of a team that enabled schools to be open for frontline workers and the progression to online learning. We are key players at the schools and the first point of contact, but we are the invisible worker. We're behind the scenes, getting it all ready for a smooth school opening, a smooth day-to-day, and a smooth year end. While not directly in front or beside the students, everything we do has a direct impact. This school year, the middle and high schools are already working with a reduction of support hours, as the past year's budget capped our clerical enrollment formula at 700 students. It increased the range of student enrollment, and it rolled the school assistant formula with the school clerical formula. All this resulted in a slashing of our allotted clerical hours. Some of our schools saw a reduction as high as 64 weekly hours, yet the duties and the responsibilities did not change. While SD61 offers elementary, middle, and secondary schools, the province does not recognize middle school. It's kindergarten to grade 7 as elementary and grades 8 to 12 as secondary. Duties and deadlines from the board and the Ministry of Education overlap. They occur in the summer months with transcripts, reporting letter grades and graduation credits to the Ministry of Education, and they take concentration and time. During the school year, this can and does necessitate that we work a longer day. Essentially, there is more work than our 35-hour-a-week job allows. To avoid a financial expense, it's preferred to bank any overtime to be taken later in the school year. But what you may not know is that clerical are not replaced until the 4th consecutive absence. So the only time to take any earned banked overtime with the least impact is when students and staff are not in session during the summer months. The proposal to eliminate summer hours at middle and high schools will not allow us this opportunity. Therefore, will actually be a direct financial expense paid at overtime rates and holiday payout for the district. There are only 7 high schools and 10 middle schools that offer the 12-month position. Most of these are senior staff. We've put the years in to be successful at obtaining this sought-after full-time position. Our seniority offers us on average 25 to 30 days vacation per year. This time equals to 5 or 6 weeks, and 12 days are taken during the school year with winter and spring breaks. With this proposal, the balance will be offered as a financial payout. Coupled with the overtime, financially, I do not see any true budget savings. This proposal confirms that 35 hours a week isn't always enough and extra hours must be put in and taken as time in lieu in the summer. Please consider the payout of holiday time and overtime at current contract rates. Please ask yourself, will it truly offset any financial savings or only cause damage to morale, recruitment, and retention by this reduction, which I must add is also currently highlighted in regard to QPEAGs. Everyone working for SD61 has an impact on the students and their learning. School offices are the hub and everyone's first go-to, the first point of contact. But if it's sheer numbers or popularity to convince you, we're not going to get it. It is so important that you understand our role, that some responsibilities can only be done in the summer, such as transcripts, reporting student grades to the Ministry of Education, graduation, etc. Please understand what happens during the school year and in the summer. Understand our role and our responsibilities before you make a decision. If you have any questions or require any clarity, I welcome the opportunity to discuss this further with you. We're here for the children, and that's why we're at the schools putting in the time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Blanche. Thank you for coming out and speaking to us at this very difficult time.
Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Dr. Robert Oppenheimer.
Hi there. Is this
Welcome
working?
to our meeting
Thank you.
again this year. Thank you. So you've got 5 minutes and you can start when you like. I'll give you a bit of a kick at the 4:30 minute. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Okay. So as Tom pointed out, this is deja vu all over again. I want to start by thanking Vicky Handley and Kelly Gorman for their thoughtful assistance in arranging for me to be on the speakers list for today's meeting. I will begin by noting the absence of the rights holders and stakeholders as part of the budget discussion. I've been very troubled by the history of difficulties that the Indigenous parents had in participating. I've been a district dad for the last 14 years. As a child psychologist, I worked for several decades in school settings. I worked with vulnerable students, with pre-K to high school, and from pre-K to high school during my career. I've seen many students whose family situations were unstable or who'd lost a parent. I've also helped administrators prevent violence by calming down students. I saw how students who are depressed or anxious struggle to learn and may disrupt other students' learning. So I know at firsthand the importance of the work counselors do in schools. One reason I switched to working in schools was that the students who most needed my help were less likely to be able to access it in clinic settings. Families that can afford it can arrange private counseling, but the public clinics often have lengthy waiting lists. The direct accessibility of school-based counselors to students is also a huge plus. When students have daily access to their counselors and the ability to build trust over a period of years, this creates safety and helps lay the groundwork for increased stability in their lives. One size does not fit all. Students each bring different needs. If our goal as a district is to help each student succeed in school and in life, then I'd like to ask, why does senior staff involved in setting the budget priorities earn up to $200,000 a year and have golden parachutes in their contracts? In comparison, youth and family counselors who earn $45,000 have no protection and are losing their funding. Fortunately, some union staff with collective bargaining agreements do have some protection. In my opinion, that should be the case for all frontline staff. Provincial community linked funding is intended to cover the needs of vulnerable students, including food security and mental health needs. The district regularly switches much of this funding over to the general budget. For example, it is currently proposed, I believe, that to move the cost of 5.5 teacher counselor positions to Community Link. This in turn means that the funding for 9 youth and family counselor positions will likely be lost. Research clearly shows that hungry students struggle to learn. Over $500,000 in community linked funding for food security is spent on other parts of the budget annually. Yet food prices are rapidly rising and food banks are overwhelmed. South of the border, vulnerable students are routinely fed breakfast and lunch. Is doing this important task somehow un-Canadian? I want to ask why that is not a district priority when the province clearly intends for this funding to be used in that way. My understanding of the role of teacher counselors and YFCs is that they have complementary roles, and they are both critically needed and they need one another. The YMCs are funded via district grants to local community agencies. They provide critical support to vulnerable children and their families. Their absence will increase the likelihood of serious incidents such as suicide and overdose risks. I've seen it in my work, and so have all the counseling staff in the district. Some final points I'd like to make. BC is currently the second lowest province in terms of per student funding for K-12 education. Parents may wish to call their MLA about this. Mental health services for children and youth are especially needed right now. Oh, I'm sorry. That's awful. You can't even see my face.
We need you to wrap up, Dr. Oppenheimer.
Yes, sir. Due to COVID, Dr. Henry has stated that negative mental health markers are at an all-time high, and research has shown a high percentage of students may currently be struggling. Now is clearly the worst possible time to cut back on counseling services. Staff in a school are like an orchestra. They all work together to complement one another. Removing key members will inevitably impact their colleagues' work and the lives of their students. Finally, there is a school board election coming up in October. Parents who are upset about these cuts might want to bear that in mind when voting for individual trustees, and some of the older students may want to talk to their relatives and neighbors about this issue. Thank you for having me speak.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your taking time to do this, and we appreciate your background and your expertise. So next on our list, we have Robert Shirley and 3 others.
2 others. Hello.
Oh, great. There they are. Thanks so much. You may start at any time you like. I'll give you a notice at 4.5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, board members. My name is Brianna Bartlett, and I'm a grade 12 student at Oak Bay High School. I have completed 13 years of education in this district, and I come to you in defense of the program that changed my life, music education. When I joined the band, strings, and choir programs, all social boundaries were erased as I learned a new skill alongside everyone else. My music classes have fostered a sense of leadership, accountability, and creative expression in me that I haven't found anywhere else. My teachers have played a very significant role in that growth, always emphasizing the importance of individual effort alongside group participation, reinforcing our growth and creating a sense of kinship and community within the ensemble. My schooling has offered incredible musical opportunities. My music teachers always fueled my love of music, encouraging me to push myself and take risks. They inspired me to the point that I decided to make music education my career, and as of September, will be studying in UVic's music education program. The effects of band, strings, choir, and ukulele programs aren't only exemplified in my personal experience. Numerous studies have found that music education programs have drastically improved mental health, attendance rates, and graduation numbers. These and many other benefits only increase when programs are implemented at a young age and sustained for more than 2 years. To quote Peter Gouzakis, a professor at the UBC Faculty of Education, often resources for music education are cut or not available so that they can focus on academics. The irony is that music education can be the very thing that improves all around academic achievement and an ideal way to have students learn more holistically in schools. The SD61 vision states, each student within our learning community has the opportunity to fulfill their potential and pursue their aspirations. I ask you, how will we be able to fulfill our potential and pursue our aspirations if the very programs that further our dreams are cut? If you still doubt the importance of music education, look around you. Look at the protesters, the letter writers, the parents, and students who time and time again speak out for these programs. We are your priority, and we need music.
Thank you, Brianne. Thank you. Hi, I'm Bray, a grade 12 trumpet player at Oak Bay High School. Band has been the most consistent and dependable thing I've had the chance to be a part of throughout middle and high school. Time after time, it greeted me with a welcoming space and happy faces. The discipline, work ethic, and creativity it has taught me is unparalleled in any other course I have ever experienced. It's truly a one-of-a-kind class. The most incredible thing about the program is its ability to bring so many people together. Whether it be the collective joy of thousands as the marching band blasts Fireball at the Oak Bay Tea Party Parade, the nervous excitement of hundreds of students at a winter concert, the giddy laughter in an early morning jazz rehearsal, or right now, in this time of crisis and fear for so many, the most diverse and eclectic collection of students and educators stand here united. The proposed music cuts will directly eliminate students' access to middle school band and strings, and thus drastically reduce high school band and strings, reducing the entire music program to nothing but a high school elective. These are not classes that would be cut. These are families, communities, organizations, and events. We talk of inclusion and diversity, creativity and critical thinking, mental health and student well-being, community building and social leadership. Here's something that represents each one of those. And now the board seeks to damage it until it loses all that it stands for, until it becomes meaningless to the community, until it's a course that only ticks a box. Thank you.
Thank you. All three of us want to represent the district student population. And with the decision so overwhelmingly unpopular among students, we want to express our discontent with the proposed budget cuts. Students have the right to proper music education, persevere as a means to develop their creativity, perseverance, interpretation, and coordination. And the earlier they have access to do so, the more time they have to develop these essential skills in life. With the years currently provided to them, students are able to set their own pace and choose to challenge themselves more, whether they move on from school to school or to just treat music as something they dabble in. When almost half these years are removed, the limited time will leave students unsatisfied with how much time they got to work on their passion, make new friends, or make new experiences with old friends. Not everyone is able to pursue music in the long run, so stripping people of the opportunity while they can is unacceptable. There's nothing that a parent would prefer than to have their tax dollars go towards their child's experiences and education. I have friends who have written songs, even entire albums, because they were exposed to music early on, because they had the necessary years to refine their skills and choose music as their passion. They credit middle school music for where they are now. Stripping the music programs of their funding strips future musicians from this world. The priority of the school board should be the betterment of the student, and clearly music programs shouldn't be the target of these budget cuts. Thank you for your time.
I'd like to thank all three of you students for coming out to address us tonight. I know this is very difficult, and I appreciate your coming.
Thank you very much.
Next on our agenda, we have Keelan McDonald.
Hello.
There she is. Great.
Okay.
Keelan, you've got 5 minutes, and so start when you're ready.
Thank you. Before I begin, I would like to take the opportunity to thank you for allowing me to speak on behalf of the Student Voices. My name is Keelan McDonald, and I am a Niska and Tahltan Indigenous student attending the music program at Reynolds Secondary School. The SD61 music program, in my eyes and many others, is not only a place to express who you truly are, but it is a place and an environment worth living and coming to school for. Without the music program, growing up in the middle school system, trying to find who you are, would have probably put not only myself, but dozens and dozens of students into a mental or depressive state caused by not knowing who they are or where they belong. Band, choir, and strings gave a welcoming space that allowed students to explore who they could be. A study conducted showing that simply listening to music has been shown to improve cognitive function, and playing music has numerous positive effects on the brain. Musicians are more efficient at processing information by using almost every area of their brain. The researchers also found that overall the musicians had a higher IQ scores than the non-musicians, supporting recent studies that intensive musical training is associated with an elevated IQ score. Every music class was my favorite part of the day. It became an escape from the real world and allowed relaxation while learning and focusing, all while having fun. Quite a few of the kids I know would not be standing here today if it weren't for those band breaks between classes or the choir and strings classes after school. Those kids would be left in the confused and stressed out mindsets that could have gone down a completely different path than they are today. When you think about it, every band concert, Victoria Day parade, or musical theater show you've seen all started with a single reading of a grade 5 or a grade 6 music note. If you think that cutting these programs will still have the excitement, the experience, and the quality you see now, you are wishful thinkers. The shows, parades, and concerts you've seen would be half as good as they are now. In music, we follow rhythms. In cultures, we follow rhythms. And like a native drum, the music program is the metaphorical heartbeat of those kids who are fighting to keep this music program and their peers alive. The music and our teachers save lives. The same thing goes with the counselors and custodians. Counselors provide a listening ear when kids get lost in the world of post-secondary, their own thoughts, or friend and family drama. For a lot of these kids, doing things while feeling alone can be mentally hurtful. And when you don't know anything about planning for post-secondary, I know I was one of those people. Counselors that help kids get into contact with the resource they need are able to make the transition into and out of high school easier and possibly save lives. Our custodians make a difference. The amount of spitballs and feminine hygiene products I've seen stuck on a ceiling are incredible. Just go into a middle school bathroom. These are real people doing real work. They are not just pawns with titles. It's hard to believe that throughout a global pandemic, the cleaners of the schools haven't kept us safe from the COVID-19 virus by cleaning our high-touch surfaces throughout the whole school. Before I conclude, I would like to leave you by saying, these people save lives. To disregard these people would be taking a life source away from kids. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your time.
Very well spoken, Keelan. We appreciate your coming out tonight. Thank you so much. We're going on to Dexter Gilbert.
Hello, and thank you to the trustees and senior management of the board for allowing me to speak today. My name is Dexter Gilbert, and I'm a grade 12 student at Reynolds Secondary School. I started as a student at Braithwaite Elementary and continued through Cedar Hill Middle School before coming to Reynolds. With any luck, I'll be in UVic next year. I want to tell you a bit about my experience and experiences as a student in our school system, and I want you to understand that there are students in grade 12 at each of our high schools this year who have walked a similar path. Each of us have felt the enormous positive impact of our SD61 music programs. I started with music in school at kindergarten, but it was grade 3 that I joined the Braithwaite Choir. Throughout my grade 3, 4, and 5 years at Braithwaite, I took part in choir practices and our drama productions at our music concerts. Moving to middle school in grade 6 was an uncomfortable and stressful time, to say the least. Music, and specifically choir, was an area of continuity for others like me. This was a group that I could join in the new school that had like-minded students from all grades attending. This had a massive impact on my life, gave me a support system, and spurred long-lasting friendships. I took part in our middle school band program and in choir, jazz choir, and as it was called back then, men's choir. Other students in the school found similar environments, playing in strings orchestras and jazz bands. These programs have been indescribably important for our musical development, but more importantly, it has given us a safe place to grow up. Part of these programs were trips to Campbell River and into the interior, which for some students was their first trips away from home. Middle school music was more than just music. When I moved to Reynolds, I continued to find a group of accepting and solid friends through choir, music, and drama. I have been a part of the Reynolds band and marching band for all 4 years and have sung in each of the choirs at Reynolds: junior choir, senior choir, chamber choir, and vocal jazz. I've also been able to take part in musical theater productions each of my years at Reynolds. Music has had a massive impact on my life, has given me a home away from home and a support system of loyal friends to help me through my hardest moments. I'm not sure if you remember your years in grades 6, 7, and 8, but I found middle school particularly challenging. Music in middle schools drastically improved our mental health. It has given us a place to find community and find strength. Without it, I can say that many of us may have lost our way, and I assume you know what I mean when I say that. I want to thank my middle school music teachers because they deserve recognition for their help in their programs gave me, and I trust you understand that other students at other middle schools would say the exact same about their teachers. They were all instrumental in ensuring that middle school wasn't quite as alienating as it could have been. What we have been able to do at Reynolds in our musicals and choirs is directly related to the excellent programs we have at the elementary and middle school level. Having music accessible to interested kids from a young age is incredibly important, and cutting it would also cripple the high school music programs. Many kids, perhaps including myself, wouldn't have joined choir in high school if they had not had the option of trying it out and honing their skills when they were younger. This is a terrible thought for me, because for me and my friends in the music program, music has been the place that gives lonely kids a sense of belonging. Cutting music programs at the elementary and middle school level will cause hundreds of students like me not only to miss out on phenomenal opportunities, but will make middle school a much less safe place for us. My brother Hamish is in grade 6 at Cedar Hill Middle School this year, and it is shocking to me that he might not have the chances or support that I have had in my years of schooling. You have a difficult task ahead of you, and I won't pretend to understand the pressures you are under in trying to balance this budget. I do, however, want to draw your attention to your own words in this budget process. Students are at the center of all we do in SD61. Students are our primary stakeholder and must have voice and agency in their learning. The budget will focus provision on service for every student to succeed, recognizing that all learners are unique and have differing needs. You have many choices in this budget process that are listed and a number which have not been listed. I understand there will be a number of people presenting after me who will also be giving you advice on what should be cut and what should be saved. I hope that you are making it a priority to keep the cuts as far away from programs that affect students as possible. There are many other areas that could be cut, both proposed and not proposed in this process. You could also lessen the cuts required, as you have done so in other years. Here is my advice to you. If a program works directly with students, it should not be cut. Music, counselors, custodians, etc. If you are to cut anything, look first to the programs that are the furthest away from the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dexter. We appreciate your coming out tonight and speaking to the board. Next on our list, I'd like to welcome Giles LaRose. Giles, nice to see you back here again. Thank you. Oh, you need to put your mute button. I'm not hearing you.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, good. That's
Can you
better.
hear me now?
Yes, that's great. Thank you.
Okay, I'll get to it. So my name is Gilles LaRose. I'm the cartage and daytime custodial foreman. So I'm here today to, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. So I'm going to talk about the daytime custodians in our school district. I've also been past president of CUPE Local 382. I was a 4-term president, plus many years on the executive as well. And I've also been with the district. This is my 37th year. And in those 37 years, I am pretty sure that about half of that time, the issue of custodians, daytime custodians, tends to come up in the budget process. And in the 37 years that I've been here, they're still here today. So that tells me that the need is there. It's not a want, it's a need. The custodians in our district, the daytime custodians, their first responsibility is to the physical plant. Our buildings, for all intents and purposes, being one of the oldest districts in British Columbia, our buildings, for the most part, are old. They need a lot of care, they need a lot of attention. And they're the frontline workers that when they open up the doors in the morning, long before anybody else arrives, that they're able to go through the school and ensure that the school is safe and secure for the students and staff when they come in during the day. They're also responsible for going and doing a sweep of the outside and making sure everything is safe and secure as well. And there's many, and I actually like to thank Keelan and Dexter for the comments they made about custodial staff, because it sort of gives you a snapshot of what they do on a daily basis. But they're also there for disaster spill responses and for inclement weather protocols and all kinds of different things. And at the end of the day, that's their need. They need to be there in order to facilitate ensuring that that school is ready to go on a daily basis. It's interesting that the pandemic hit in March of 2020, and this district was uniquely situated where they had the staff in place to deal with the cleaning protocols that the BC government mandated right off the bat. We had the staff in place, and that's lot different than most of the other districts in British Columbia, because for the most part, most of them didn't have daytime custodians. So they had to scramble, they had to hire, and you can imagine a district like Surrey, for instance, hundreds of people that they had to hire in order to get day shift positions in place, and we didn't have to worry about that. The operations department had to just hire a few people for the afternoon protocols, and for the most part, we were ready to go as soon as the kids were back in school. So for me, it's kind of an interesting thing that that the custodians, the day shift custodians, are sort of being targeted this time around, when we, for all intents and purposes, this COVID's not going away. And if anybody has any ideas that this is going to be a thing of the past very soon, they're sadly mistaken. With the Delta variant, then the variant, and the Omicron, now there's more transmissible variants coming out. You just don't know what's going to happen over the next little while. And for all intents and purposes, this board is going in the wrong direction if they feel that they have to start cutting those, because at the end of the day, it's just a huge mistake. I think from what I understand, there's maybe $600,000 worth of savings to be had. Well, you're going to probably wind up with $1 million worth of headaches. And the interesting thing about this as well is districts that have had to hire day shift custodians in order to facilitate the cleaning protocols are starting to take a second look at what they've done in the past. And some of the districts are now holding on to their daytime staff. They're starting to recognize that they're an integral part of the system, and going forward, they have an intention of keeping them on. So, from my perspective anyway, and I'm on the front line with these daytime custodians, and I see what they go through every day. There's all kinds of challenges, especially in the last couple of years. There's all kinds of challenges when it comes to the cleaning protocols. So this district, would be remiss if they even thought about eliminating one position in this district. It was interesting. Yep.
Yeah, thank you. I think we need you to wrap up.
Okay. I was just thinking 37 years ago, in order to facilitate getting a job with this district was pretty hard. And nowadays there's a lot of different jobs out there now, and employers are they're coming through with benefit programs and all that, and so there's more choices for most people now. So from my perspective, the district is in the best shape of any district as far as going forward and making sure that we have healthy and safe schools. Thank you for your time.
So much. We really appreciate your coming out to speak tonight, Giles. Good to see you.
Thanks, Tom.
Next to Glenn, also speaking for custodian. Glenn, anytime you're ready, you may start. We've got 5 minutes.
Through the chair, excuse me, Glenn, we're not hearing your audio at the moment, unfortunately.
The board and my name to the health.
Yeah, I'm not hearing you, Glenn.
Hi, Glenn, it's Andy here. It may be a connection issue. I don't know if you're able to speak from a different location, or if you're on wireless or cell phone currently. I'm not sure how you're connected.
in the chat is, do you hear me?
It's very choppy. We're only getting one word in a few.
Sorry.
I wonder if he's able to re-log in and.
Yeah, we could try reconnecting, Glenn. And if you're on Wi-Fi, you may want to do this from a different location.
I'd like to force opportunity.
I'll look out for Glenn to reconnect.
Can we go with the next person? Oh, here he comes. Never mind.
Glenn is our last speaker, and
Glenn, we're still not able to hear you, unfortunately. I wonder if there's another computer or location you're able to sign in from. But you could just try disconnecting and signing out and signing in again. Maybe it reconnects with a better connection.
If you're in a basement too, Glenn, or could get closer to the router itself, that might help if you're trying to use Wi-Fi.
There's a storm blowing out there as well, so all sorts of variables. Hopefully we can get you connected.
I wonder if it would be possible, Andy, to move on with our agenda and get back to Glenn when he's able to connect.
Absolutely, I can send Glenn my details if he wants to try and troubleshoot this with me offline.
Okay. Okay, I appreciate that because we've got a very busy agenda tonight. So I'm going to go to B11, the staff presentation. So is that you, David?
It's going to be, hello, Trustee Ferris. It's going to be me.
Great.
I'll get us started. And I'll invite, Dave's going to get our slides up. So good evening, everybody. My name is, oh, I'll just wait. Dave, are you okay?
There we go. Sorry about that.
That's all right. Thank you. My name is Vicky Roberts, and I am one of our district vice principals. And this evening, I'm going to be presenting along with Dave Shortreed and Josh Bartz from our team. And tonight we would like to talk to you about our current work that's happening across the district around our classroom assessment practice, the work that we're doing as we continue to develop our skills and our understanding, and also the work that we're doing as we align and embed this with communicating student learning. As stated in our FESL report, our primary focus K-12 is to develop culturally responsive learning environments where all students are connected to their learning and feel seen, heard, and valued. Our strategic plan shares goals of inclusive learning, supporting Indigenous learner success, and creating learning environments that support the mental health and well-being of all of our students. As we go through our presentation this evening, you will notice how each of these goals is embedded within assessment practice and the practice that's happening throughout our district. Tonight, we want to highlight some of the work that is happening, and to launch us into that, I'm going to invite Dave in a moment, and he's going to review our principles of assessment for you and the work that we've been developing and how it's starting to launch across the district. From there, we're going to share the proficiency scale pilots and the work that we're doing to support ministry policies and mandates as they develop. And Josh Bartz will then join us to share updates on assessment and reporting tools K-12. Finally, we want to just wrap up and share what are our next steps, our wishes and dreams and hopes as we move forward in supporting this work across our district. So Dave, can you share your section on developing on our principles of assessment?
Yep, thanks, Vicky. Hi, everyone. My name is Dave Shorreed. I'm part of the district team as a vice principal. What we have here is not new to you. You may have seen it in the FESL report or in past presentations. This is our groundbreaking work, exciting, and we're proud of this. This has been a great collaboration with district teams and Indigenous Ed on coming and landing at this graphic. And just to give it a bit of history, this has been in development for over a year. We've workshopped it with different members and different stakeholders in our schools, with different groups of teachers and community partners, particularly with our Indigenous Ed department, as well as we look to show how this is connected, how this is woven together with the First Peoples principles of learning, how it's woven together with the culture responsive practice, and our current understanding about research, about what we know is good and effective assessment. We also, but more importantly, want to make sure that doesn't land just here, that it is a practical living document that's able to be workshopped with our people, that we can chew on it in different ways. And if you look, we've also already started to translate it to French for our dual track schools. And this is our guiding question: is how do we support staff and students with effective assessment practices? This is a lot of the content here isn't new. It's in pockets in all of our schools, and great work is being done in classrooms. But we are missing a collective kind of understanding, some common language around what's important around assessment. And so we're using this as a kind of a ground level kind of a launch to a lot of our Pro D offerings. It's woven into any professional development that we do as a team and our professional development days, into learning rounds that we're doing. We're constantly looking to see how we can have this graphic, this one-page piece come alive. And in development right now, when you hover and you click on our website on Inclusive and Flexible, that will take you to a portion of our website that's going to have videos of different stakeholders, different people, and different voices explaining what that feels like, it looks like in the classroom. It'll be links to research and articles that support each one of these big 6 pieces that we've landed on. But as well as, because we're building this locally, we have artifacts, we have documented classroom lessons, we have lesson plans that at each grade level that we're going to also be putting through here. So just wanted to give you as a board and as a community an update on the design of it, and make sure that we feel like we want to make this as available and accessible to our people as we can, and so it's within reach. And also that it's informing not just our Pro D, but what's happening in the classroom and then the development kind of side of things as well. Vicky?
Thank you, Dave. As Dave mentioned, as you look at the our principles of assessment, you notice that they're the first people's principles of learning, foundations of formative assessment, and a focus on creating student-centered equitable practices and culturally responsive work that creates inclusive learning for all of our students. As you know, and I mentioned earlier, this directly aligns with the work that we have defined and determined is important to us in SD61. The principles provide us with a shared focus and alignment, as Dave mentioned, and this supports our students and our educators and our families K to 12. Not only that, as our students move from class to class, grade to grade, level to level, or maybe even school to school, they have a common understanding. They have common expectations of how they're going to engage in their learning. What will assessment look like for them? And it also supports our educators as they have common work within their teams, their groups, their grades. If they move from one school to another, if we're all grounded in quality informed practice, that carries on through our schools and it supports our learners' success from as they move through the system. Most importantly is that the principles actually form our why and inform the how of the work that we do. So with that, as we continue to develop our practice, as we continue to do work to shift and change and respond to ministry guidelines and policies, as we continue to develop tools to support our students and families, the principles of learning are our foundation. So we feel connected. The work feels connected and it's all informed by quality research-based work that's centered on our students. Dave, if you could go to the next slide. Oh, actually, sorry, I'll get you to go back, sorry. So I'm just going to pause for a second and I'm going to invite you all to slip into your thinking about yourself as a learner, your experiences as a learner in school over time, thinking about your experience with assessment practice, thinking about your experiences with grading. And what was that like for you? What do you remember about being in school over time? Did the assessment practice that you engaged with feel that connected? Did you feel supported? Do you remember having success and looking forward to getting that feedback? Or sometimes did you get those nerves and butterflies in the pit of your stomach? I was recently talking to a middle school educator. We were talking about assessment and she said, oh, we've all got our assessment suitcases that we carry around with us. And it's such a wonderful image because really we think about, if we're thinking about student identity, if we're thinking about educator identity, we do carry that informs of what we believe of ourselves as a learner. And it also informs the practice that we do as educators. So as much as we can develop this common understanding, as much as we can keep our students at the center, as much as we can think about how our assessment practice creates learning spaces that are inclusive, the better off we are. On the classroom level, what we really wanted to do was highlight some of the work that's actually happening around embedding the assessment principles and quality assessment practice in our schools. And tonight we're going to invite the voice of Emma Milliken with permission. Emma is an educator at Spectrum, and she also works on our Indigenous RIED team here at the district. And Emma recently presented in one of our ongoing series that we offer in SD61, Engaging All Learners in Secondary Schools. And this is a joint series opportunity with UBC and also the Rural Education Advisory, and it's province-wide. So Emma was recently taking part in the series, as I mentioned, and the topic of the series was nurturing student agency through assessment practices. Emma is really owning and grappling with the work that we're talking about here. And trust me, it was hard for us to whittle down sections to share with you tonight because there was so much rich content. This is a video that is on our website, so if you wanted to watch it in its entirety. Emma's living this work, and so we want to highlight her voice here and share the work that she's doing and the impact that she's noticing on her students and student success. So Dave.
I guess just say I'm a Milliken. I'm on Anishinaabe on my dad's side from the Kettle and Stony Point First Nation in Ontario. I'm Scottish on my mom's side, and have been here as a visitor on Lekwungen territory for almost about 20 years now. It's gone really fast and I'm getting old. So I do a lot of the work that I do. I find the more and more that I do this work, circles just make sense. As I just the way it informs my work. Okay, so I wanted to just start by this is what, when I started thinking about this and started thinking about assessment, this is kind of what used to come to my mind was it's grades, right? It's grades in red. And when I talk to students about assessment, this is, I think, usually what comes up still in their minds as well, is grading and report cards and marking and a lot of things that they don't see themselves traditionally as having control over. So this goes for whether it's Indigenous students that I teach or non-Indigenous students. So I should probably also mention I teach English at Spectrum Secondary or Spectrum Community School. So I teach all levels of just regular English classes. I'm also the Indigenous support teacher here. So I work with our Indigenous students in lots of different ways. Most of my time is spent with struggling learners, students who are struggling for lots of different reasons in their courses and in their classes. That's just, I end up helping them and checking in with them. So that's kind of where I'm coming from with this, is those students are in my mind. When we talk about Indigenous approaches, that can be across the board for any student. This was another piece that's on, this was just recently developed in our school district. And so I love that it's been developed with our, the district team, our IED department, teachers, school administrators, and community partners. So this was a collaborative thing that was created. And so it's got all of these lovely pieces to it. And so, and when you start to look at each of these pieces, that's really what, if we can make assessment about these pieces and make it look like this, it's going to look very different from how I was taught to assess and how most students are used to having assessment done. So assessing for belonging. So this one is, for me right now, is a really huge one. So Dr. Martin Brokenleg also brings in ideas from other authors and other studies. And so the 4 A's, he also uses other language. So belonging can also be reworded as attachment. And in here we have things like trust, inclusion, warmth, friendship, and cooperation. And so those are all things that when students come into your classroom and come into our classrooms, these are the things that will bring them back and make them feel safe and let learning actually happen. And for a lot of Indigenous students, especially, this is has not always been the case, and it hasn't been the case for their families, right? Because of residential schools and day schools and all of that. This has not been a recent reality. And so it's really important that this feeling of belonging, I think, goes over, kind of blankets everything, including assessment. So when I think about assessing for belonging, so from the principles of assessment, relationships, belonging, and personal identity, it's inclusive and flexible, and it means I'm loved. So things like early formative assessment. So that's something that I've been trying to do lately, and really finding some good stuff with it is that I'm assessing for success. So helping students find early success. So like in the first week of a class, it's about building confidence. How do we find a piece, something that I can give my students, that I can assess, give them feedback on it, and they're going to find something in there that's successful, where they're showing skills, even when they don't think they can. And I know that we all have those students that walk into our classrooms thinking, I suck at this, I'm gonna fail this. This is not my course, I'm only here because I have to be. And so I make it a point to try and find, I have a couple of examples of work that I use now, where they're easily done, they're easily assessed, but students can show real skills in there. They're also not sugar coated, say, oh, it's, you guys are doing wonderfully, and students know when it's real. So I'll show you some examples of that, or one example of that in a moment. But the curricular competencies too, assessing the competencies over the content allows for more flexibility in students demonstrating their skills through the content. And I think that's so important, because when you have students who, especially, and we've seen this through the pandemic, especially when students are missing or absent sometimes or just can't get all of the work in, being able to assess for the competencies through the work, suddenly you have many more places where students can give you work or show you learning, where it's the skill you're assessing, and the content is the vehicle. And that just, for me, in doing all of this, makes so much more sense. When I kind of figured that out, I was like, oh, okay, now I can build in all these places for students to show me what they can learn, even if they've missed some school, even if, it's not perfect, but they can still find success a lot more easily. Independence is really where you have autonomy. So when they reach the independence level of learning, it's really about, it's really about students being able to take on independence in their learning. So they continue to see assessment as a tool as they make choices about their own learning. And then this is where, and I think I've heard Trevor mention this, allowing for students to actually be involved in creating assessment tools. So being able to I let students have input into the marks that they receive. They have to do a whole self-evaluation piece, and we sit down and have a conversation, and we come to their mark together. So that's a huge change. That was the riskiest part of this for me, of changing my assessment methods. When I first heard about it, I thought, oh my gosh, like, what the heck is that all about? And when I actually learned about it from Nora, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And now I love it. It's changed my whole perspective on evaluating and assessing, and puts the student right there with me. And I think it's awesome.
Isn't she wonderful? I'm so grateful that we have educators like Emma in our classrooms across our district, who are being so thoughtful about the work that they're doing, who are being so thoughtful about the students and families that they're working with, and who are being honest and open and grappling with their practice. And we talked before about the identity piece, and here's a great example of Emma shifting what she knew as she was a beginning educator. And as we learn more about how students learn, as we respond to what's going on with students in their lives and their families, how are we shifting our practice to support that? So I just am very grateful for that work and for that share. Along with the work that Emma's doing, we've also been embedding other supports and ongoing work across the district. And the ministry, as you know, has a new reporting policy developing and coming out. And within that, schools across the province, districts across the province have taken on pilot projects. And within our district, we've had 16 elementary schools and 2 middle schools over this past year who are piloting work around the proficiency scales. And just teeny tidbit on that is just that the work on proficiency scales takes us another step further in strength-based, student-centered assessment practice, looking at where students are on a continuum versus assessment as an end point. Because as we all know, learning doesn't stop, it continues. It's a continuous journey. And so, like I mentioned, we've had 16 of our elementary schools, 2 middle schools in a pilot who've been working with using proficiency scales, who've been collaborating with their colleagues in their schools who've had embedded professional development. And along that, because the new reporting policy, which they have paused for one more year, which is a gift of time for us to continue to support and build teacher capacity. And I will also say to support our students as they understand new assessment practice. We also have our grade 9s who have been invited in to a facilitated book club with Katie White, and also have had some targeted facilitated sessions with Katie White, who's a Canadian educator who's done lots of research and writing on assessment practice. So they've been taking part in that all year. And as we have this gift of time of one more year before the policy gets in place, we hope to expand this work to build, like I said, teacher capacity, educator capacity, and student and family awareness of these new assessment practices. And as Dave mentioned, we are updating and curating resources through our district website constantly, so that folks always have a place to go to if they want new strategies, new ideas, and information. So what I'd like to do now, and speaking of, for thinking about students and families in particular, and how are they engaged in this process, is to invite Josh to talk about the great work that's happening around how are we communicating student learning with our students and also with our families. And so Josh, I'd like to take it away.
Yeah, good evening, everyone, and thanks for having us on board here tonight. Nice to see everyone. My name is Josh Barks, and I work in the IT for Learning department alongside Andy and a great team up here. And we're really looking at the digital tools that will facilitate and support this work. So with current reporting and digital portfolio tools in SD61, this is where we communicate, we share, and we document that learning for parents, other teachers, staff members, and admin, along with students. So right now, as you can see on the screen, we have a wide landscape of digital portfolio tools along with reporting. Some people, some staff may be using CSL, they may be using Fresh Grade Classic or Fresh Grade Connect, they may be using MyEd. So what we're looking to do is streamline some of that work with tools that we're already using to make things more simplistic for consistency and alignment purposes. What we're noticing is you may have been privy to the news around Fresh Grade shutting down at the end of this school year. And we're going to shift our digital portfolio work to an in-house build as opposed to a third-party service. And that provides a lot of opportunity for us to fit the tool to our work and not fitting our work to a tool, which is really beneficial when we're going through such a shift in assessment practices. So we're really excited about the in-house build. We'll have less reliance on a third party, and we'll have more in-house support as opposed to relying on others for support. And we're really, again, looking at this from an alignment and consistency factor, not only for teachers, students, and admin, but also for a parent experience as they navigate potentially multiple report cards and multiple reporting tools at this current stage. And we're really confident in our in-house ability, just based on past practice and past initiatives that we've been able to roll out. One that comes to mind is the referrals app, where a need arose, and we were able to provide a solution that fits the need specific to our landscape here in School District 61. So as you can see on the board, or on the slideshow, sorry, we're going to utilize tools that we are already using in our district. So that's Google Workspace for Education that admin, teachers, staff, and parents are utilizing. CSL, which is Communicating Student Learning for reporting, and then Parent Connect, which is used right now for online forms, for confidentiality, for digital consent. So integrating these tools together, we're looking to provide one platform where parents, students, teachers would log in and have a much more integrative platform where we'd be able to seamlessly use the tools that we're already using in our district. It provides potentially future future opportunities for more data integration as well, to help better inform our decision making. And we're really leaning on tools that are familiar to staff, students, and parents moving forward. And I think one of the highlights of this is that it's very collaborative and consultative with the GVTA, and they're going to be working alongside us with a working group to help make sure that the digital portfolio portion of this project is carried out to the needs of staff on the ground with students in classrooms. So we're really excited about this work and really looking to push this forward over the coming months. So, thank you.
So just to wrap us up quickly, thank you, Josh. I think that's really exciting work. And as you can see, in all of these pieces, our students are at the heart of the work, and supporting our educators is at the heart of the work. Informing our practice is important. And how are we sharing this with our families? And how are we responding to our community? All of this is outlined in our strategic plan, and the strategies and supports are outlined in FESL. And so I think it's a really exciting time, because when we start to get to see the work come alive, we're at that moment right now. And so we're really looking forward to the next months and years as we continue to develop this. Just very quickly, next steps. For speaking of next steps, we are very fortunate to have a subcommittee on reporting through JCCI, and that's K-12, and they've been informing and guiding our work along the way. So we're working with GVTA closely, making the steps and plans. We're going to continue ongoing professional development to extend and support our principles of assessment. As I mentioned earlier, hope to extend our pilot schools to build teacher capacity, student awareness, and family understanding. And then finally, in regards to the big work that Josh and team are doing, we have a wonderful working group that's developed that's going to be meeting regularly to look at the tools that we're developing, thinking about usefulness, thinking about student interaction and family support, so that we have the tools up and ready in September for our students, schools, and families. So we thank you so much for listening, for sharing in this great work with us, and for the opportunity to highlight all this great work that's happening across the district, and for your support.
Well, thank you, Vicky, and thank you, Vicky, Dave, and Josh. That was a great presentation. I feel that we're probably you, like us, are feeling a bit rushed this evening just because there's so much going on, but we really appreciated that presentation. We're going now to new business, and I think we have a motion from Trustee Waters.
Excuse me, Chair.
Yes, Andy.
Excuse me, Trustee Waters. I just wanted to let you know that our presenter, Glenn, had reconnected. I wasn't sure when in the meeting that would be a good time, so I wanted to advise that Glenn's reconnected.
Well, we could probably go to him right now. Trustee Waters, is that good? Yeah, sure. Let's do that. Let's go to Glenn right now. Great.
I would like to thank the board and the trustees for providing this opportunity for me to speak this evening. My name is Glenn Chen, and I work within the district as a custodian too. The health and safety of our students, staff, and families is our top priority. Custodian twos, which I'll refer to later on as C2s, play an important role in our community and are essential to the Greater Victoria School District. A C2 wears many hats in a typical day, ranging from being an ambassador for the school to first responder in the school district's frontline defense for health and safety concerns.
Chair, I'm sorry, I'm really having a hard time hearing on my end. I'm getting a lot of echo, a lot of feedback. So
can we just turn one of Glenn's off? Got two screens open.
Am I good to go?
I think you may need to turn the volume down on the Zoom meeting coming out of your speakers if possible. I see you're connected twice, but only one of them has the mic enabled. I can try disconnecting the other connection. One moment. Okay, let's try that, Glenn.
Yeah.
Your prior teachers, staff, and students. Can you hear that?
That's better.
Much
Thank you.
better. Thank you, Trustee Whitaker, as well.
Prior to teachers, staff, and students arriving at school, C2 looks for safety issues both inside the school and on the exterior around the school building, looking for safety issues such as removing, picking up needles, broken glass, beer cans, used condoms, and to remove transient people canopies loitering on the school grounds property. We are in a JOHS committee and bring up health and safety concerns in a meeting and also play critical roles in the health and safety of students, teachers, and staff in all school buildings. T2s have an intimate knowledge of a school and maintain the maintenance, plumbing, carpentry, and electrical work by sending in an SR and making phone calls to the proper tradesperson, ensure we follow up on work, that the progress made, and what's still being done, and an estimate how long it will take. Many of these tradespeople are only available during the day, and currently C2s provide on-site information when they come to do needed work. There's also the issue of cleaning and disinfecting, which is particularly important during the day while teachers, staff, and students are in the building. Although some of the COVID orders haven't lifted, COVID is still circulating in the community. The C2s are not present in the school during daytime. The level of cleanliness will be reduced at a time when the most people are present. For staff and family or students who have medical health conditions, this is a significant concern. Proposing to eliminate C2 daytime positions is ill-advised. In conclusion, a daytime custodian 2 position is a beneficial asset to health and safety of students, teachers, staff. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Glenn. I appreciate your sticking with us and making a presentation tonight. So we'll move along to Trustee Waters and her motion.
Thanks, Chair. So this motion in your packet is that the board direct the interim superintendent to meet with members of the GVTA to discuss the appropriate use of fossil fuel industry sponsored educational materials, including those produced by Fortis BC. So this is stemming from the presentation that we received at the February 7th Education Policy and Direction Committee meeting, where we received a great presentation raising significant concerns around the Fortis BC curriculum. The key concerns that were raised were around the quality of the curriculum and the real clear bias in favor of fossil fuels, and then more generally around the challenge of having a for-profit corporation promoting their industry through curriculum in public schools. So looking further into this, I see that there's quite a broadly supported initiative from the Canadian Association of Physicians for the Environment, CAPE, and they've released an open letter to the Minister of Education calling on her to ban this type of curriculum. And the letter signed off by, over 100 doctors, educators, students, as well as environmental and community organizations. And again, supported by the BCTF. And I just provided a quote for me from Terry Mooring because I thought it was just so well said, that the fossil fuel industry has no place in BC classrooms, especially as we face an unprecedented climate crisis. We will continue to expect the BC government to work with teachers and invest in developing unbiased, science-based climate education resources, including training for educators to support this curriculum. So I originally came forward with a motion just around like banning like, let's just not have this in the school. But through conversations, I think it's important that this is actually a discussion that happens with the GVTA in collaboration, and that it really belongs at that table. So that's what the motion is intended to do, is to start that conversation, but really from a place of starting from a place of acknowledging that this curriculum is inappropriate for public schools, in particular our schools. So that's my rationale, and I hope you'll support the motion.
Thank you. Nicole?
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair. Yeah, I think certainly when Dr. Laurie Adamson from CAPE came to speak to us in February, and highlighted the open letter to the Minister of Education, you know, I think we were all pretty, you know, taken aback by what we saw in terms of the kind of quite clear and bias in the materials. Since that time, my understanding was that staff were going to go away and sort of clarify to what extent the materials are being used in our school district. And I, having clarified this tonight under new business arising rather from the minutes, I understand that we haven't had an opportunity to determine whether we're using the materials at the middle and high school levels, but I wanted to highlight a couple of things when it comes to this. First, I think I'm not sure if the board actually needs to direct the superintendent to speak to, you know, the GVTA about learning resources. We actually have, you know, a learning resource for classroom use policy and regulation 61.1, which highlights a process where there are concerns. My hope would be that, you know, in so far as our superintendent is our leader and is responsible for adherence to policies and regulations, that we, after seeking some clarity about the extent to which the materials are being used, we rely on that regulation in particular, which highlights a process for not only selecting learning resources, but also for specifically challenging materials where there is concerns around objectivity, bias, propaganda rather, discrimination, and so on. And that process really does rely on, first of all, the teacher concerned and the principal to informally resolve the issue. And where that is not possible, the process then really goes on to underscore that leadership role that the superintendent plays. And there's a learning resources review form that gives the superintendent an opportunity to collaborate, as Trustee Waters is suggesting, to review those kinds of concerns. So I hope that the board doesn't need a motion, but rather can rely upon our interim superintendent to apply those regulations after we seek sufficient clarity on where these materials are being used in our district. My sense, having heard the presentation from Dr. Adams and the member from CAPE that presented to us in February, is that, you know, these materials are presenting very clear bias and sort of spreading propaganda that is, you know, in favor of industry goals rather than the goals that we might have as a learning community. And then the final thing I would say is just that acknowledging that some educators may well be using these materials to help students to critically think about what they're reading and what information that they're gleaning from the various resources that they have to sift through and decide what to believe and what not to believe. So again, I think that's why it's so important that the superintendent be allowed to kind of lead that discussion behind the scenes. So I guess my overall feeling is that I'm not sure if we actually need a motion to do this, but I do think that we should use it as an opportunity to highlight the regulation and the policy in place and just clarify our expectation around how this will be handled moving forward. Thank you.
Well, I think in light of your comments, maybe I'll just go to Superintendent Whitten and ask that she clarify what she would be willing to do or not do or whatever. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you, Trustee Ferris, and thank you, Trustee Duncan and Trustee Waters. This is an interesting conversation, and I do reference the Regulation 6161. Really, the revision occurred in 1980. So while it does say 2019, I think that was for the purpose of ensuring it was gender neutral language. So I do think this regulation needs review. As a committee, where it's referencing a committee struck by the superintendent to review resources, I would say that our joint committee for curriculum implementation, that is a joint committee with the GVTA members, would be an excellent place to have the dialogue. And again, I agree with Trustee Duncan and Trustee Waters. Some of this material, and we do know, I've had an update from the interim deputy superintendent as well as Principal Hovis that there are no secondary schools using it. They kindly gave me an update as the meeting progressed. So only 3 elementary, but I do think it merits a future look, and how we use this won't be the only one that we receive. And so I think it's important to continue the dialogue. Awareness is key to this. Also developing resources that do meet our expectations. And when we are looking at critical thinking and bias and surfacing those dialogues within schools, these may be resources that we look at it through that lens, but not because it provides us information for teaching the science-based curriculum. So I would be happy to take it to joint committee JCCI.
Oh, well, thank you very much for your comments. Jordan, do you have any feelings about that you'd like to express?
No, I hope that's what the motion is achieving.
Okay, so we'll, so you'd like to carry on with the motion in the hope that that's what takes place?
Yes, that's my understanding of what we're trying to do.
That's fine. Do we have any other speakers to the motion?
Yes, Chair.
Okay, so I've got Trustee Whitaker and then Trustee Painter.
I'm going to be honest with you, Trustee Painter was well before me.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
Sorry.
Thank you, Trustee Whitaker. I appreciate it. So first, I want to thank Trustee Waters for bringing this forward. I think it certainly is timely, given the presentation we had in February, and I think the significant provincial conversation that is happening around this item. I also appreciate Trustee Duncan bringing up the regulation around resources and challenging them. So I've got a couple comments around the regulation. I note that under section 3 sub A, it talks specifically about upon receiving a complaint. And so my challenge with the regulation, which I mean, again, it is, as our superintendent has referenced, it is rather outdated. I think the challenge we have with this is it is a complaint-based regulation. And so we essentially, by leaning into that, have to wait for the complaint to come through and follow a process, which I'm not necessarily opposed to. However, I do think that this particular issue, especially in light of the climate emergency motion that we passed in 2019, the fact that we are in a climate emergency, and the fact that we have a public that is very much expecting us to act like it. We have a duty, I would argue, as a board to show our community the appreciation we have for that emergency, and to take this very seriously, to put a flag down and say we do not approve of the use of fossil fuel industry supported curriculum in our school district. And I think it is incumbent upon us, and those of us who take this very seriously, to make a statement to that effect. And this motion does that very clearly, especially because it focuses not just on this curriculum, but on fossil fuel industry sponsored educational materials. And what it does is it directs, and I think as we've heard, the superintendent to engage in those discussions and hopefully build a cohesive understanding that this is the kind of material that we don't want coming in to our education system. My concern, and I certainly don't have challenges with teachers picking and educators picking pieces that suit their education needs of their students, but why is it coming from Fortis BC corporate sponsored material? It shouldn't need to. We should be able to find that information elsewhere. I don't think it's appropriate, and I think it's right that corporate sponsored fossil fuel material has found its way into our school system. And for better or for worse, there are pieces that have found to be usable and valuable. Well, let's find that information elsewhere. Let's not get it from the fossil fuel industry. So, and I trust teachers can do that. I absolutely do. And if they need support, let's provide them with that support. But anyways, I think I've made that point. So I do think this is an important motion for the board to pass. I do think it puts our flag down on this issue. And I hope it builds that important conversation that the superintendent can have going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Trustee Whitaker.
Thank you. And thank you, Trustee Waters, for bringing this motion forward. Just wanted to take us back because Trustee Painter has commented to the sponsorship piece, but we actually began conversations about this in January through the Parents for Climate Action sent us a letter which was brought forward, and they identified this in there. And we did have some discussions about that. And the suggestion I had made at that time was that this isn't just about curriculum or those discussions. This is about sponsorship. So while I appreciate Trustee Waters' motion and absolutely let's do that, that's not really solving what is the root of the problem. And the root of the problem here is that there is not a policy for how somebody or how teachers can access materials that are developed outside of the normal processes and are literally sponsored free materials. So I guess within this discussion that happens is what I'm hoping is that that discussion will be much broader and it won't just be talking about Fortis. I think that the opportunity for this to happen can happen in any of our educational environments. I mean, we could have Pepsi promoting products in our cooking classes. We could, depending on how that's brought forward. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm just really hoping that the discussions will be bigger than just one topic. This is just one thing that has come up through that. But yeah, I mean, obviously we need to do this. I just also want to highlight that at the recent VISTA meeting, I did put forward a motion and it was approved by VISTA on this topic to write to the ministry about this as well. So it is definitely gaining a lot of traction across the province. So thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Whitaker. Seeing no other speakers, Trustee Duncan, you have something more to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify just one point, because and thank you to my colleagues for their comments. I just wanted to highlight that in our learning resources for classroom use regulation, it does talk about a criteria for selecting learning resources. And it talks about bias and prejudice and that kind of thing. So there is an opportunity, I think, for us to have a larger conversation, as Trustee Whitaker is pointing out. And I think, you know, as the interim superintendent has also pointed out, the regulation and the policy, while obviously relevant, could use an update. And so maybe this will be the platform with which some, you know, suggestions around updating it come forward. But I look forward to hearing back, assuming that this is going to pass tonight. I look forward to hearing back from the interim superintendent regarding some of the suggestions that come back from JCCI.
Thank you, Trustee Duncan. Seeing no further Questions? I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion? All those against? And the motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much. And seeing no further business, can I ask for a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
Thank you all and have a good night.